Welcome back to Kaulignation, your one-stop shop for all things Kaulig Racing, Dingernation, SVGNation, and all things NASCAR. I'm Sean. Thank you for joining us on this Thursday evening for a bunch of interesting updates. In this video, we're going to be talking about an update on Christian Eckes' contract extension, an update on Ty Dillon's contract extension, a preview of some Patreon content we put out there for SVG that I strongly urge everybody to consider going over and checking out. And then also a surprising SVG update we'll get to. We're also going to talk about another major update with Kaulig Racing. Our multiple choice question for this video is, how do you think SVG will fare at Richmond this weekend? A short track. He's done a lot of short track practice in the Legends car recently. Even won a race. SVG's results in the short tracks have not been great. I'm interested to see if he takes a noticeable step forward at Richmond. I thought he qualified very well at Iowa. Where do you think he will finish at Richmond? I guess it's not multiple choice, but rather a question. Comment down below and share your thoughts there. Big shout out to our channel sponsors, Lynn over at SVG Nation and Alex over at Dingernation on Facebook. We appreciate you guys. Also, to subscribe to our Patreon, the link is in the description below. You also see it pop up on screen quite frequently during our videos, and that is patreon.com/Kaulignation. We would appreciate the extra support because we do put a lot of valuable content out there that's a much longer form than we're able to do on YouTube. All right, let's dive into this. We're going to start with the Kaulig stuff and make our way to the SVG stuff. Chris Rice did his interview that we covered on yesterday's video from TMD, the Sirius XM show in the mornings with Mike Bagley and Pete Pistone. And we dove into the Ram stuff. We'll touch a little more on the Ram stuff in a bit here. But some of the other noticeable things he said is Ty Dillon is nearing a contract extension with Kaulig Racing. It would only be a 1 year extension. It should be noted that Chris Rice said it'd be great to have him in the car for one more year, not another year. That could be semantics, or it could have been very intentionally done. Because, look, Kaulig is rumored to move to Ram. Now, until there's a deal done, especially with this team that has had just so many rumored deals fall apart last minute over the last 3 seasons, I think it's important to just not assume that it's going to get done, regardless of how forthright Chris Rice was yesterday. It would be foolish to just assume that it's going to get done when the reality is, until I's are dotted and T's are crossed, it's not done. But what re-signing Ty Dillon does is you already pay for an RCR alliance that, people can argue if it has any merit or not, but using the ECR engines does. You pay for that alliance. You pay for the technical information, meaning the setup information and certain data that is not accessed publicly. Pardon me. And now you're going to employ Richard Childress' grandson for another year in the 10 car. If Kaulig's making the switch to Ram, it's highly speculated by almost everybody that they would lose all manufacturer support from Chevy. So the only outside support they'd get from, that's not just their own, would come from RCR. Stuff like setup information, stuff like the engines, but you're not going to have Chevy representatives helping you out. You're probably not getting Chevy sim time either at Hendrick. Now, all the teams have their own sims in-house, but they're not as good as what's for the Chevy drivers. That's why they go over to Hendrick Motorsports to use that sim, that big rig where you're actually in like a car. However, that's a big deal if you're going to lose that. Whether they would let Kaulig pay a significant amount of money in order to use it or not, who knows? But the safe bet is they will lose support from Chevy. The other thing that was announced was Chris Jackus is on a long-term deal. Originally, that deal was announced as 2 years. Now, I don't know if that deal included option years and Kaulig has just picked up the option years, or if they renegotiated the contract. But make no mistake, Chris Rice came out and said that it was a 2 year deal to begin with next year. But it looks as if it's a long-term deal because in yesterday's interview, they're almost done this season. If he only had one more year out left on his deal, he would not be talking about Christian Eckes being on a long-term deal. For example, he calls AJ Allmendinger's deal a long-term deal, and AJ's signed through 2029. So I'm not saying Christian Eckes is signed through 2029, but it's a safe bet Christian Eckes is signed through at least 2027. And that's a good guy to have under your wing for a extended period of time. On the Ram front, it started to be picked up by other people. Adam Stern picked it up last night. A few other places have picked it up today, Daily Downforce and some of the other notable content creators. The other person that picked it up and added his own caveat to it was Breakhard, who we've referenced on this channel over the years. He had the SVG information on both fronts, first the Kaulig Racing and then the contract extension with Trackhouse Racing to bring him up to the Cup Series. He's just on top of things, and he showed a text message that he got dating way back to when the Chicago race took place. Someone telling him, I'm hearing Kaulig is going to the Truck Series with Ram. So if Breakhard's saying it, that adds a whole other layer of likelihood to this deal getting done. But again, until it's done, you just don't know. We will keep following this story closely because it's a big one and it affects not only the Truck Series, but eventually the Cup Series and the Xfinity Series. Moving on to SVG, we did a 25 or 30-minute Patreon video that will be put out tonight about SVG's playoff chances and what he has to do in the round of 16 to advance. I think a lot of people think he can sleepwalk through that round. Honestly, I thought he could almost sleepwalk through that round. I thought he had way more bonus points than what he actually has and had way more of a gap on 13th place than what he has. It turns out that's not the case. So we're going to dive in to what we think he has to do at each particular track in order to advance. That video is already recorded. It'll be going out probably about an hour after this is posted. If you want to get it, sign up over at patreon.com/Kaulignation. Link in the description below. We would appreciate the support. And the other thing that's going out tonight, probably not till later because it takes time to process because how long it is. We did an 85-minute episode 3 Kaulig and Trackhouse Nation podcast, which dives into the future of both organizations, the ins and outs in both, and what it might look like for both teams to go to Dodge and Mopar. So be on the lookout for that. And in surprising news, I was told a story today that SVG and his girlfriend, who I believe is a upper at Chevy, never really intended to get married, but due to some legal reasons, shall we say, the two recently tied the knot, kept it very small. It sounded like Stephen Duran, SVG's crew chief, was a witness to it. So basically, as small as you can. I don't want to get all political on this channel, but it's interesting that they never intended to get married, but for legal reasons, they ended up doing it. So, whatever the reasons, if you're in a relationship with someone, chances are you love that person. And we just want to tip our hats to SVG and his new bride and congratulate them on that. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications to all, share the videos around to other people. If you have social media, share them. Again, check us out on Patreon, and we will see each and every one of you in the next video.